Well, welcome to another episode of Fire Your Boss Fridays.
I'm your host, Chad Pesa. My co-pilot, Lisa Hart, is on a photo shoot and she will not be able to join us today, unfortunately. But before we dive in today's episode, let's remind ourselves of the Fire Your Boss Fridays Rebel Yell. It's to steal your life back, fire your boss, and live a life full of purpose. It is not just a catchphrase. It is a manifesto for change, a call to action, a beacon for all you entrepreneurs out there who are daring to chase your dreams and disrupt the norm. So, with the help of our fantastic guest, Shawn Murphy, you see him here on the screen, we'll be sharing fresh knowledge on how to launch, manage, and grow your business, is what I'm hoping, actually. Let's say hello to Shawn, former Marine and also fellow podcaster and entrepreneur. But the reason we have crossed paths today is to learn more about his entrepreneur journey. So, Shawn, say hello to the listeners and share how you found yourself today on a podcast like Fire Your Boss Fridays.
Well, I appreciate it, Chad, and no pressure at all, right? You're hoping that we'll get to that point, so no pressure at all. So
I want to dig deep, man.
we're gonna have to get into it. So, well, you know, we had connections through different podcasting networks, but I found myself today because I own my own franchise. I fired my boss back in April of this year and decided that I was done making other people a lot of money.
So you're putting in the time and the energy and realized, hey, if I should just be maybe putting that towards something, that I'm in control of, creative control.
Absolutely. Because my background before what I was doing right now, which is I own 2 territories and a budget blinds franchise, I was a business development director for the largest staffing firm in the North Country of New York, which is up around Lake George, Plattsburgh, New York. And I was learning a lot about margins, and I understood what our margins were, and I also knew what my paycheck was. And they weren't they weren't marrying up to each other. I was watching these margins and getting yelled at about cutting deals that just weren't enough margins for the big bosses to make more money while I was still, making my paycheck. Oh, and by the way, he was in Florida during New York winters complaining about what I was doing.
Right. So the secret's out, Shawn, is what you're saying. You got the secret doctrine. You started reading the secret doctrine. You realized, oh, wait, there's more to this than what I thought. And once you started getting, this information, right, what we call maybe the employees awakening, right, we could call it. And you're like, hey, I'm out of here. There's an escape route. And you started looking. So I'm going to set the stage for you, Shawn. You are the host on a podcast called Above the Bar. You're undoubtedly you came across various challenges in a podcast as well, because and we've experienced them. So I'm going to tap into that. That's something you and I have a lot in common on. Okay, so on a platform like that, you're discussing various viewpoints, and you can get haters, you can get critics. Okay, so I want to play with that a little bit if you're open to it, Shawn.
Absolutely.
All right. So, have you encountered any haters or critics along the way? How do you deal with the negativity or pushback while still staying true to your podcast mission and the content that you're putting out to the world?
So the first thing for me is you've heard celebrities talk about this. They don't read reviews. I don't read reviews, and I find people that have no vested interest in my show that are friends, that are real friends. And listen, folks, if you want to know if somebody's a real friend, they tell you why you suck. Real friends tell you why you suck. People who are not your real friends,
or that's all they tell you.
yeah, like that, but people who aren't your real friends, they want to keep you fluffed up because they don't want any problems between you and them. Real friends will tell
Right.
you where your problems lie at. So the way I've done it is I've asked them what was good or bad. I did have a great mentor. We called him the Podfather. He podcasted for almost 12 years that I could go to, and he would, I was into the whole editing of everything and how to do all it. Well, my show's completely live, and I was editing on the back end, and he was like, why are you doing that? That's a waste of your time. He goes, people want to hear that raw emotion, what the conversation was. They want to be involved in that raw conversation. So, it was just willingness to work with other people, but I also give my guests, I lay the groundwork with my guests, same as we did beforehand. Hey, this is what the rules of my show are. And it's super simple.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's off limits. Everybody's welcome, and there only gets to be one asshole, and that's me.
Yeah, that's it, huh?
That's
All
it.
right. Well,
And that's really
I
worked for
think
me.
you can keep that T-shirt on in this one too, Shawn. So
Yeah.
we just could roll that one over. Right on.
Yeah, that's kept it so simple. But I love it because, I mean, the world I've gotten into with podcasting, and you probably experienced this, Chet, people that I would have never touched outside of it, from.
Like conversation wise is
Yeah,
what you're
no,
saying. Like the dialogue and like
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, we're up in Lake George, New York for nationals for car shows right now.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy a couple weeks ago, Zip Simmons. He builds custom cars. He's building one that matches a Hot Wheels car. But I've also had
Okay.
on um, people who are into paranormal, like you name it, they're in there. The Above the Bar podcast. It's who you are, what do you do, and what makes you great.
Yeah, that's cool. Really tapping it. Sometimes you're answering questions for people that they need to ask themselves, right? And I feel
Absolutely.
like you're digging into someone, and because what you just said earlier, you're talking to a demographic of individual that you would have normally talked about, which means the questions you're asking them would be way different than their demographic of people as well.
100%.
So we're exploring a space that's new for both of you. Now, I know you're a U.S. Marine, man, and you obviously still sporting your colors. So being a U.S. Marine and an entrepreneur, okay, there's got to be some unique perspective from the life you've came from on resilience and overcoming obstacles that has transformed, that has given you the ability to fire that boss, right? Something got you across that battleground of working for someone else to like escaping and then building your own tribe outside of that, doing like the above the bar and obviously your blind business and your employees. So is there something that kept you alive that you can share with our listeners, and speak right to them, man? Like speak to these
Yeah.
people who are listening.
Well, you know what? If you're sitting out there right now and you're thinking like, well, maybe I want to do this, but you've added the but dot 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 at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this, but I'm going to wait next month. But I'm going to do this, but I need to have this money put away. You're never going to do it. Just stop. Save yourself the anxiety. Save yourself the conversation. You're not going to do it. And that's something that I brought with me from my time in the Marine Corps was you just have to take the moment and just move forward. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a bad day in it, I've lived by this mindset of there's one thing in life you can't stop, and that's time. This is going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If it's a bad day, I go and do 3 consultations. My consultations with people are all free when I go in their homes and I measure and I give them pricing and I tell them this is what we're going to do. And all 3 of them tell me, no, we're not going to do it. Or, oh, we'll get back to you, which normally means, no, we're not going to do it. And I run into that. I can't let that carry to the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Instantaneously, I have to be like, this is done. Let's go to the next day. And that type of mindset from the Marine Corps time of next day, what's the next day bring me?
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? The next day I
The
might do 3
mission has
appointments.
to stay pure, right?
That's
Like
it. That's it. Mission is everything.
right.
Mission accomplishment is everything.
Right.
The other stuff can come and go. Mission accomplishment is everything.
That's cool, man.
And that mindset is what I brought with me.
That's awesome, brother. So we all get this, and maybe we've done it ourselves. I know I have. You're asking for something, like maybe you're saying to the in your mind, you're saying it to yourself first. Hey, I want escape. I don't want to be at my job, right? But how do I get there? So first step, that's why we say steal your life back. What that looks like for me is different than what it looks like for you. You've essentially said, hey, this is my life. This is my time, and I can see that you're not paying me enough to be here and use my time in my life. How did you what was the trigger like, right? I know you did describe it, that you started seeing the paperwork, you started seeing the secret doctrine basically. But
Yeah.
let's just say that exists in all companies. And talk to the listeners. Is there a voice inside you that already knows you're not following your truth, right? How long did you carry that burden with you before you said, you know what, this is my truth and I actually already know it and I've known it for 10 years? Walk us
I,
through that.
Well, you know what? You kind of you nailed it. That voice for me, I probably lived with it for years. Like I thought I was going to just go out and do my own thing when I first came out of the Marine Corps. When I first retired in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm going to get into entrepreneurial stuff, and I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to do my own thing, and then I realized I wasn't ready, and I got some great offers from good companies that paid me very well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was a railroad conductor for Amtrak for almost 7 years, and my wife and I were just talking about it. It's funny that you brought that up. She goes, "Well, do you wish you'd have done it sooner?" And I said, "No, because I needed to do the union piece with the railroad to teach me how to deal with customers that are unsatisfied
Mm.
in that way, that
Interesting.
I'm not in a that I'm not in a uniform, like my Marine Corps uniform,
Stat
kind
comes
of
with status,
settled
brother.
people to
Yeah.
right. But when I was in an Amtrak uniform, people sometimes thought like you were there to serve them, and no. So I needed that. And then she said, and I said, then I had to go and work for the staffing firm, and I had to see what margins were about, see what hiring people was about, see what
mm.
working those deals were about, and I had to see them. And then when all those pieces fell together in my head, it was probably about the beginning of this year, and I looked at a couple other franchise options, and I have friends that were in franchising, and I talked to them and I said, well, what do I need to do? And that's when I got my shit or get off the pot moment of, you're either going to do this and you're gonna stay where you're at, and you're gonna suck up the good days and the bad days and just be slave to the paycheck, or you're just going to throw caution to the wind. And it really was that mindset of how I said, real friends tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Real work makes you feel your truth. Like when you get out there and you really work for you, and you're responsible for you, and you have to get out there and pick your 70 hours a week to work, and you can't just be like, well, I'm clocking in, clocking out, have a nice day. When you really
Right.
realize that, that was my aha moment where I stole it back, when I realized that I just wasn't happy anymore, and I,
Right.
I had the tools and I wasn't using them how I could. So that was my steal it away moment.
Love it. Love it, man. Dude, thanks for sharing, man. So I'm going to set the stage again, right? So one of our principles on the podcast is that stealing your life back, right? That's kind of where we're at right now. But also what we mean by that is reclaiming your time, reclaiming your money and your energy, so that those are the things that are holding you back. Like when you decided you wanted to do this, I bet like you said earlier, if you have excuses like I'm gonna, but you mentioned earlier, but fits into this, but I don't have the time, but I don't have the money, but I don't have the energy, right? Those are the buts, right? So walk our listeners through. You probably were one of the people that you're talking about, right? You probably said
Yeah.
but a few times yourself, right? Like,
100%. I was, I want to get into this, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I have the money right now. And I had plenty of money sitting in my 401k that I could use, but I don't want to deplete my 401k, and I'm messing with
but
that.
yeah.
I got to get, and it really again was that same moment when I realized I had that tool bag full, that every tool in my tool bag was an answer to my butt. It was an answer to it. Well, what about hiring people? Yeah, bro, you just spent the last 3 years working with a company, hiring people and writing contracts and negotiating deals. You know how to do that. Yeah, but I don't know if I want to deal with people every day. In that kind of way. You spent 7 years trapped in an aluminum tube on the railroads. With
Mm-hmm.
passengers that you couldn't get away with.
Way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you're in and out of people's homes. Stop making the excuses. And once all the excuses were pulled away from me, that that really caused me to go, I'm the only reason I'm not doing it.
You are, right? This is like this boom just happens. You
It's
are.
there. I'm the reason I'm not doing it. And I'll use today as a perfect example. So I'm in Albany, New York. We live down in the Albany area. I'm up in Lake George, about an hour away. I'm talking to you, sitting on Lake George, getting ready to have an amazing meal. with my wife and son, with 4 friends of us that we met at camp, that I was able to go to camp without any issue, worrying about somebody contacting me. And I was able to do those things and feel comfortable that my phone wasn't going to ring because someone was going to say, "Hey, why wasn't that deal done? Hey, didn't this happen?" Because you got to remember, folks, until you steal your life away, whoever you work for thinks that your time is their time, and that
Amen.
and
Mm-hmm.
and they'll do that. Well, I need you to come into work today. I need you to do this today. Well, I've got my own plans. Yeah, I hear you. And look, New York's an at will state. They can very easily be like, well, if you can't come and do that for us, we really don't need you. It's an at will state. So there's that constant fear. When you run your own show, the only fear is your own failure.
So what do you say to your employees that are thinking of leaving? We had someone on similar, right? So say your employee comes and they have the same kind of feeling. How do you handle something like that?
High five them, make sure they got your number, and let them know that you're a voice for them moving forward. Let them.
Cool. So
Don't fight them on it. Why? My son is my installer. He installs the blinds for me. We talk about stuff all the time. He's 30 years old. He sees what I'm doing, and he's building off of what I'm doing. Luckily, the where we bought our franchise from has a program that if a person is an employee of yours for 5 years, they start giving them discounts when they go to buy their own franchise through HFC.
Oh, wow.
So
that's cool.
So it's kind of an incentive for people to stay with you on your books for a longer period of time. So he knows that. And the day that he says to me, "Dad, I'm ready to go do this," I'll put him in contact with those people, let him know, and move forward. I have a friend that he does it even better. He's a little bit more financially secure than I am. If one of his employees wants to buy a franchise similar to his, he funds them. He funds them as a portion of it, and it's genius in two ways. Not only do they have the money, and now they have the mentorship going forward, he owns a portion of it, and he can take a piece of their hard work. He already knows they're a great employee if they were working for him, and he didn't want to lose them.
Well played. Well played.
Genius.
Yeah. Well, so if you guys are listening, this is how you keep employees strong. Is I believe if they have a part of your company, and this might not be the way you do it, Shawn, but if you have stock holdings, so say you don't have insurance and say you don't have anything, but you have stock in the company. So if that company, your company, is succeeding, the employee is succeeding. So whether it's a normal stock holding or if it's just like a profit sharing, which my dad had access to a profit sharing at his company. And so the longer you put in your hours and you get the jobs done and you do things correctly and we don't have back charging, and now that's you're getting a piece of that and you're helping to build this company, right? So I think for an employee, they're going to stick around. The hardest thing is to keep an employee stay there forever, because opportunity comes a knocking, and if you don't have the best opportunity for them, then it rolls. So, and right now tradesmen are tough to find. So
let me throw something in real quick though, Chad, that I think people need to understand, that I learned in staff.
Yeah, lay it on me.
People do not quit jobs. No one has ever quit a job. I've never quit a job. You have never quit a job. None of us have ever quit a job. We leave bosses and we leave cultures. That is the fact. All of us know somebody that works in a job right now at a wage less than they could make at the company down the street. And they stay there because they love their boss and they love their culture. If you can develop a culture and be an employer that people want to be around, they will stick around. Sure, if you're, half of what the average wages is, you're probably going to lose your people. But the reality is people leave bosses and cultures. They do not quit jobs.
Yeah, culture is, I've read it before. I don't know. I know personally through my own experience that obviously the people that you're around plays a big role. So I'm going to make this shift. Thanks for sharing, brother. I want to make this shift in the conversation. Lisa and I, kind of our primary focus is helping entrepreneurs take that leap, right? And then get all the way to what we call the life of purpose. And so when you dream big, okay, big dreams don't happen overnight. Small dreams do. Like I have a dream to change into an amazing outfit. That's a very close-knit dream. Like you can attain that pretty quickly. But if you have really big dreams, which most people do, which is something like financial freedom, you know, when I ask people, would you trade your current life for the new life right now? They say yes. But when I ask them, let's do it then, and I tell them to sell everything they own and go for it, why do people want to hold on to their old life and have the new life? You know, they both can't coexist. What's your feedback on that? How would you add to that?
Can I give you a great analogy?
Yeah, I love analogies, man. Lay it on
Uh,
me.
are you wearing shoes?
Well, I'm not right now, but
Okay. So, what? Tell me about your favorite pair of shoes.
well, they're
The ones you've owned
slip-ons.
the
They're
long.
slip-ons, yeah.
How long have you owned them?
Let's see. Okay, these ones probably about a year, yeah.
Why don't you get rid of them?
Perfect example right there, right? Is that kind of where you're getting at?
That's it. They're comfortable. You know them. You know how your foot slips into them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? The big under the big toe of it, it might have where a stitch is popped out. But you know, if you just keep your toe off a little bit to the side, it won't touch that stitch. Maybe every so often it'll bump into it.
Right.
But you're comfortable. You know them. And why would you want to change it if it's working?
Right.
And it's the same thing in our lives. We don't want to change it because we're comfortable. We know our routine. Humans are routine animals. It's a proven fact that happiness is not people who bounce around and are constantly like, oh, I'm traveling to Acapulco and then I'm going to the Himalayas. They are not as happy, proven fact, scientific, as someone who has a routine, regular position and a regular, what we would call a regular normal life. They're not as happy. Their Instagram might look better, but they're not as happy.
For sure.
And that's a fact.
So for you, brother, what steps did you take to embrace your dream? Like, or are you actually there? Because is this just a stepping stone to the next level version of Shawn, right? Shawn
Yes.
Murphy. What? Give us the future version of you right now, man. I'd love to see kind of where is it you're thinking of going? You haven't hit the end, right?
No, far from it. So my goal with what I'm doing right now is I like franchising.
Okay.
I've looked into other businesses and stuff like that, and I like the models of a strong franchise because I like structure.
Mm-hmm.
Comes from my time in the Marine Corps. I like structure. I don't want to have to. I don't need to break this thing and rebuild it for you. I look for structure.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal is down the road is to own not just a budget blinds franchise, which we've got the 2 territories, and the goal is to have at least 4, if not 5 territories of budget blinds. But once we hit that point, it's to start another franchise company while that one's still going. And eventually, for me in the capital region, I want to get to a point where I have enough franchises under my holding company that if you said, hey, I want to bring, Chad's Fried Chicken to Albany. I want to bring one of those franchises up there. You're going to have to pick up the phone and call me and ask me to vet your franchise in our community to see if it's worth bringing up there. That's the
Interesting.
Goal. That's the goal, is to get to that level.
Okay. And what's your projections? Like, we're talking a decade from now? What does that look like for you?
I think that we'll be at the 5. Well, we hit 2 territories in less than 6 months. I think we'll hit in 3 years. I'll have 2 more, and the fifth one's a tough one just because of the way my demographic is. Do I buy it or just work it? But I think that'll be in 5 years. We'll be ready for the second set of franchises, and then once you have the knowledge and you have the process, that's only going to take a couple of more years to get that going to buy the next. Once I'm sitting on 3 solid different franchises, then we're at that decade point where we're ready. I think the conversation has to be, man, I want to start a franchise in Albany. Who runs the most? Who has the most? And that's what, he who dies with the most toys, wins. It's still true. I don't care. I don't care what anyone says. That that's how you're remembered. And I want my kids are all involved in it.
So how do you stay committed to a goal like that, right? Because life has its way, right? So staying committed to a thought or a goal or a dream, do you do any of the traditional things? Do you journal? Do you do vision
Nope.
boards? How do you hold on to that for
Fear.
yourself?
Fear. 110% fear. Don't run.
Mm-hmm.
Don't run your mouth and say you're going to do something and not be willing to do
Mm-hmm.
it. The journals are.
So stand
That's
behind it.
it. The journal.
Well, that's with yourself. You're
Yeah,
making a contract with
I do.
yourself then.
Me, myself, and I knows. I have said this, and I've said it out loud to other people in my life that rely upon
Mm-hmm.
me. That if I don't do it, I gotta face them, and then I gotta face me.
Yeah.
So fear is is my thing, and I don't believe in motivation. I think motivation fades. I believe in
Mm-hmm.
obsession. Uh,
Okay.
I kind of switched that mindset after David Goggins' book, You Can't Hurt Me. I kind of changed my
Mm-hmm.
mindset towards that, but I'm really a big fan of, um, I'm all about fear. If you're not afraid every day waking up of being successful and what you need to do to
Mm-hmm.
be successful that day, then you're just going through the motions.
Yeah, the emotions, the emotions. It's this they're controlling you. Something else is controlling you. So, well, great insight on that. That's definitely a cool perspective. The fear, kind of motivation. I haven't actually heard any of our guests talk about it from that perspective. So very insightful. We're kind of getting close to our end here. I want to let you get back to the races, but Shawn, we appreciate your honesty and willingness to share your journey with us, all your experiences, your insight, and hopefully it inspires our listeners and motivates them. I know you're not into motivation, but let this at least be some temporary motivation to get you off the pot and pursue your dreams, fire your boss, and create a life full of purpose. So, Shawn, where can people find this podcast and maybe listen to you more? Is this on Spotify, right? That's, I think, where I saw it.
I am on every single podcast channel you can get. I'd etch it in the back of your grandma's transistor radio if I could get away with it. And it's
Right.
the Above the Bar podcast. You'll see a
Okay.
drawing of my face wearing a fedora. My daughter did the artwork for me, tattoo
Mm-hmm.
artist. So you'll see that picture. It's the Above the Bar podcast, and we go live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, with our guests, and we're talking about this week. Our guest is Dr. Lynn Anderson, who is a
Well, yeah. So, Lynn Anderson, what date is that supposed to be released?
so you can watch the live on this upcoming Wednesday, the 13th. You can watch the live at 8
Okay.
p.m. and then you can listen to it if you're just into the audio side by 7 a.m. on Thursday morning Eastern Standard Time. I release the audio.
Okay. Cool, man. That's sweet. So I'm not exactly sure when this will be out. So I don't know if that will translate, but it'll be recorded, guys. So you guys can go over there as well. But don't forget to comment below and like combat us on some of this. Let's create an open debate, or also subscribe. Join our growing community of like-minded individuals seeking truth, success, and purpose. Together we're going to fuel this fire, right? Let's grow it. Let's make a difference in the world. We are the people, all right? So this is one podcast and one episode, but hopefully it builds a community that can make a real movement. Same with your podcast. I'm hoping you're making a real movement and changing lives over there, brother. So thank you, all my rebel souls, for joining us today on Fire Your Boss Fridays. Until next week, stay inspired, keep soaring above the bar, and we'll catch you later. Say goodbye, Shawn.
Goodbye, Shawn.
to our listeners, my man. They've been hanging out with you.
Have a good one, folks. Hope to see you all soon.
All right, man. Cool, man. Take it easy. Tell the fam we said hi.